Hello lovely family. In this video I am going to share this amazing soft and fluffy plantain brioche bread with you. I hope you stay tuned to the end to see how I make it. These are the ingredients that I'm using. I will list everything down below in the description box with the measurements. Please, if today is your first time joining me, do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So I'm gonna go ahead and just mash my plantain up. I'm using 2 large plantain, and you can adjust the quantity according to how much bread you're making. With mine, I'm making about 4 loaves of bread, and also you can blend this if you want. So once it is done, I'm going to transfer into my bowl and I'll be beating it with my eggs one at a time. And the purpose or the reason why I'm doing this is because I want my wet ingredient to be as fluffy as possible. But you do not have to do that. You can just mix it together as you would normally do if you are baking. But if today's your first time too, you can try this way of making it, and I can guarantee you a really fluffy and a soft bread. So I am just whisking together with the egg. And once that is done, I am going to incorporate my milk in it as well. So I'm now just incorporating the milk in it gradually. So as you've noticed, this has changed its color. It's a little bit lighter and it's fluffy just the way I like it. And I'm just adding about 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, which I'm mixing into the wet ingredients. Now in a mixing bowl here, I'm going to combine my dry ingredients. I have divided my flour into 2 equal parts, and I've sifted half part which I will be using later, and I'm just mixing the other half in here with my salt and my sugar. I'm just using 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. You can use white granulated sugar if you want. The plantain is already sweet, so I don't want to add too much sugar to it. If you like as well, you can just omit that process of adding sugar. So I'm mixing that together to make sure it's well incorporated. Now I'm just going to gradually incorporate my wet ingredients into my flour and keep mixing with the other reserved flour to form a sticky dough. So I'm just doing that on a low speed. And as it's starting to come together, I'm going to add more of my wet ingredients and a little bit of my other flour. And I will keep repeating that until the wet ingredients and the flour are used up. So now once that is done, I'm adding about 1 tablespoon of butter at a time, and I will repeat the process with the remaining butter. And once that is done, I am going to go ahead to keep beating for about 10 minutes. And for that, I'm going to up the speed a little bit higher. So after about 10 minutes, this is how my dough is looking, and I'm now going to cover with a cling film and a cloth, and I'm just going to leave that in a room temperature to double up for about 3 hours. After 3 hours, this is how it's looking. I'm now just going to make sure I get rid of some air. So I'm just pressing down the middle to get rid of some air. And then I'm going to grease my worktop and then transfer these onto the worktop. You can use flour, but I'm just greasing with a little bit of oil. And now I'm just going to divide into 2 equal parts, and then I'll just start molding my dough into the shape that I want it to be. So you can just mold these to any shape that you prefer. I tell you, yeah, the smell in my kitchen right now is just amazing, and that smooth dough got me thinking before I even finished baking this brioche. And trust me, you do need to try this recipe. Again, please, if you haven't already, subscribe and support my channel. So hit that notification bell, so when uploading a video, you will be the first person to be notified. So I'm now just molding into the shape that I want, and I'm just folding that over and sealing the edges as well as I go along. So that is done. I am now going to transfer this into my pan. I've greased my pan with some butter. You can do that with some oil. And I did that as soon as I started to shape my dough. And also, do not forget to preheat your oven for at least 10 minutes before you start baking. And then I'm just repeating the same process and shaping the rest of the dough. So now I'm done with shaping all my dough, which I have placed in my individual baking pans. And now I'm gonna go ahead and brush the top with some oil, and I'm going to sprinkle some desiccated coconut on top, as well as some linseed before I go in to bake it. So I'm now going to sprinkle some coconut on top of that. And this is optional. And voila, I'm now going to cover this and leave it for additional 1 hour before I bake them. So this is after an hour. I'm now going to place this in my oven and bake for about 35 to 40 minutes on 160 degrees. And this is it. My bread is ready. I'm going to leave for about 5 minutes to cool down before I remove them from the pan. And this is so soft and fluffy. I hope you try this at home, guys. I definitely would encourage you all to try this recipe, and to make your own bread at home is definitely worth it. And trust me, it is much more better than buying bread outside. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.